client's brief on every single thing. Have I understood it right? Is this all right? Are you trying to do this? Do you believe that you are on this geography only, or you want to go to more geography? Do you want to go deeper? Do you want to restrict yourself only to only these few people, or you want to go to more? Ask as many questions. I'm sounding a little textbookish and academician, but it is very, very important. Every day I find problems happening in this area. And finally, crack the idea, a great, interesting idea, and make sure you present it in the most beautiful manner. I keep telling my internal team, so this external communication is a lot of times kind of, oh great, wonderful, why don't you send the presentation, PPT, we will have a look at it, we'll come back to you. No, never, refuse. Say, we will present it to you. You want an e-presentation, we will do it, because you can't create that excitement and experience, anybody else can do it in as a beautiful manner. And now last and the most important one, most of us do not have this clear, measurable outcome matrix being given to the client. It's very, very important. Why would somebody want to spend? You know, this answer is an absolute no-no, that I can't measure the success. Of course, there has to be a success. Somebody is investing money, and make it on everyday basis. An event goes wrong, for 2 months, 2.5 months, let's say a ground activity is happening. Every evening client must know what transpired on that day. Create a dashboard, provide information, real-time basis, give access to them, upload images, give them live videos. A conference is happening here. Let's say somebody for Anurag's team has, some external client has sponsored it. He's not able to come in here. Why can't there be a video link? He can see what exactly is the true audience turnout, or whatever is the kind of engagement which is happening there. So which means the transparency of your grid is very, very important. That's all what I want to present to you. Thank you so much.
Encourage everyone to bring up a very enthusiastic chair, and thank Mr. Sarma for taking our time and gracing the occasion. With the same, to present a token of appreciation on our behalf for thanking him, I request Mr. Naveen Gupta, founder Batra, to kindly join us on the stage. Let's welcome the gentleman with a round of applause. The art and impact of experiential moments. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I welcome our panelist. Please give it up for Meenal Srinivasan, Managing Director, K3 Infra Build.
Brand message, that the communication from the brand comes across in such a way that for every pair of shoe that you buy, we will donate 1 pair to the destitute and the needy children in Cambodia. And look at the way they communicate this across to their potential consumers. So I, as a consumer, I'm walking into the store of this particular brand, and even before I decide to make a decision to buy this brand, I would get a VR headset through which I'm transported into the digital world of Cambodia, and I actually experience the kind of joy that these kids are, experiencing through the purchase of my shoe. I'm a millennial, and this brand is targeting the younger generation. So they are directly talking to my motivators, my emotional motivators, which is I want to create a social impact, through my buying decision or through my purchase decision. Now that is met, and plus I'm experiencing the joy and the happiness which the kids are sharing. And boy, don't you think that's going to forge a lifetime of emotional bond with your brand? And I think people who are able to understand that and give an immersive, experience buying experience to their consumers are the ones who forge a stronger brand. And we've kind of seen that. We see that Google doing it and the larger organizations doing it. So that was my little take on what is it that brands can do to it.
I think Indians have been the pioneers of exploiting the emotional quotient when it comes to brand, and largely we know there are only 2 sort of brands that exist. The brands that we need in our day-to-day life and the brands that we aspire to own, and that requires a different approach altogether. You have to push yourself to get there. But largely, I think Indians have done quite well in terms of creating that fitment of using the emotions as a identifier when it comes to listing. So for example, if I'm from Kashmir and if I'm in a food store and at the section of fruits, it is instinctively that I will probably be drawn to an apple. Now, what kind of an apple? There will be we grew up watching about 22 varieties of apples. So what kind of apple will I get there, and the costing and all of that put together. I think Indians have done that quite well. where we still, I think what I would want to see a change is the service part of it. While we are very good at articulating the emotional connect between the consumer and the brand, we're equally bad with perhaps the worst in the world when it comes to service. हिंदुस्तानी बेचने में सबसे अच्छा है वो the moment the bill is cut and then that's it, the umbilical cord is cut, then you are at the mercy of so many third party and it's an experience also, probably if that is called an experiential marketing, whether it comes in that or not, but then you discover कि अच्छा ये तो third party है, ये तो fourth party है, ये उसका है, इसको 3 दिन लगेंगे, इसको 4 दिन लगेंगे. So I think, which is where people still look at India. When you look at the brand and when you look at the kind of work, we are doing phenomenal work. I think 90% of the ad world is captured by Indians in terms of the creativity, in terms of the acceptance by intelligentsia, the kind of awards that we win, the kind of recognition that Indian brains have. But what about the consumer experience in terms of the brand servicing, and which is why people still look at India as an affordable brand destination. यहाँ मीडिया सबसे ज़्यादा इसलिए क्योंकि सस्ता है, इसलिए नहीं कि अच्छा है, सस्ता है. मैन पावर क्योंकि सबसे सस्ता है, प्रोडक्शन क्योंकि सबसे सस्ता है, लेबर क्योंकि सस्ता है. एंड आई थिंक दिस सस्ता somewhere it overall, if you were to do a survey and compare the purchase, the brand experience when it comes to purchase and the brand experience that is post-purchase, there will be huge, and in my lifetime I've seen there is absolutely huge delta between the two. I think that's the kind of work we still need to do. We don't do that.
And in the interest of contrarianism, now that we've spoken about emotions, let's go to the science part of it. Because now experiential, like a huge part of it is technology. Whether it's AR, VR, whether it's, the metaverse is now also coming up, Web3 technologies. So how do you see all of this sort of informing the experiential market?
Absolutely. I think that is the future. You see, what is the biggest problem in India? We have a parking problem. The biggest problem that we have is parking is a symbolic representation of so many problems that we have in terms of the distance that I have to travel to get to a brand. Whether it is a home, whether it is a television set, whether it is anything. Which is where we see, the online opportunities today, various brands who are coming in to service that. Overall, I think it is very difficult for an Indian to go to his next purchase, to see that television set. It is not just that, there won't be a television set close by. There is a problem of parking, there is a problem of so many other things, there is a problem of timing. Indians are the most, in terms of taxation is of course one part that all of us know, with the highest dual tax country. But in terms of working, आपको सुबह 10 बजे अगर आप ऑफिस में अवतरित नहीं होंगे तो पेनल्टी लगेगी. ये हमारे साथ भी होता है. So it happens to most of us. So we are heavily taxed, stressed consumer, where it is, you get that one weekend to sort of to do something. So the billion-dollar choice is whether you want to spend that time for your happiness, with your family, with your friends, with your sport, or to do a purchase. Now, for example, in real estate, people today don't buy real estate close by. When I'm saying people don't buy, I mean exceptionally. Generally, people go out because they are in a rental and they want to buy a home which comes at a certain cost. That certain cost is not available in your friendly neighborhood, that will be on the outskirts. Now, imagine if I live at a place called X and I have to go to the outskirts of Gurgaon, which is where possibly affordability, or Noida, some sector of Noida, where affordability will fit me. It is a day's job just to go and see that. Which is where I think technology will come in. It has already come in. It is right knocking at our doors. In fact, we sold one of our projects through a metaverse. Within 6 hours, we sold out the entire project. There was no site visit, and we translated that. So I feel technology will create an experience at your doorstep. You know, for example, I keep on going back to, for the sake of relevancy, a real estate. When you go and buy your home, what do you see there? There's nothing. Sites are very uninspiring, very unsafe. There is dust everywhere. There's nothing. So basically, where do you place your decision? You place your decision by looking at the sample flat. That is also not actually a sample flat, that is even not to a scale, but that gives you an impression. Now imagine, just to see that impression, you spend an entire day, you spend so much money and so much of time that you could have spent otherwise. Imagine if I gave you the same experience, many 100 times better experience at your location, which is what over a period of time technology will do. Today we are obviously talking about things like metaverse and all. I think that's all right, but I'm personally fascinated by a technology called the holographic technology. I mean, we've seen 3D holographic technology being used for a very long time. I used it about 10 years back, and about 10 years back, I was doing a pilot for Mercedes, and I was telling them that, how many people visit your showroom? It's very few number of people who visit a Mercedes showroom. Most of us visit a Mercedes showroom or a high-end, a Phantom from outside. We are not there because most of us are not there in that category to buy that. Imagine if I were to create a 3D holographic experience center for a high-end automobile, for a truck, Ashok Leyland. I mean, when I was the business head of Individual Group, I was working on a pilot where do you park a truck? Where do you create that experience? Nowhere. But by using technology, I can actually open the bonnet, I can show him the engine, I can show him the differences, why this technology is better, why this is how it works, add to the elements of sound, stuff like that. There's so much technology can do, but overall, making consumer experience simpler, which is what I think we've been discussing, to keep it simple and make it more effective.
Ashish pointed the nail on the head very rightly and brought about couple of pain points when it comes to buying essentially some of the logistical challenges which we all face, and considering that we live in cities like Mumbai and Delhi. So that's the biggest pain point. Then ease of convenience of shopping, that's another which is what technology kind of bridges that gap. Now with so much of technological advancement that's happening today, we have garnered enough of computing power to be able to give immersive virtual experiences to our consumers, which your brain actually perceives them to be real. And that is what essentially, AR, VR, or for that matter, XR and MR, is what is kind of bringing to your table. They are not just merely diffusing the border between your physical and the digital world, but they are actually merging the two worlds to immerse you in a realm of imagination. And what Ashish was mentioning about, giving you all a multisensory experience of experiencing your products through a sense of smell, touch, feel, etc., etc. So I think that's where it stands out. Adding to what Ashish said, for example, if you were to do buying a piece of furniture, for yourself, I mean, just the whole 9 yards of going to a furniture mall and then trying to visualize how this is going to look in my living room, whether the color is going to match my decor, etc., etc. I mean, companies like IKEA have used augmented reality in such a beautiful way that you just use a phone, point it to the piece of furniture, and you visualize the entire setup right in front of you. And you can have different choices, you can change the color, you can change the design, etc. So, I mean, I think this is a phenomenal advancement, and this is going to impact, and people have already started doing that. I mean, IKEA is one such great example. There are multiple examples. In fact, in the domain that we operate in, which is sustainability domain, I know of people who are using VR and AR to kind of transport people and actually make them experience how the green zone is going to look like. You know, in fact, in my organization itself, I'm toying with these kind of, marketing initiatives where I'm able to transport people through augmented reality or virtual reality and make them experience of how this world is going to look like. So I think these are here to stay. And I think they've diffused, not only shifted the boundaries, I think they have given us a boundless experience of the imaginative world. So I think that's where this is a paradigm shift that is happening.
And so how do you see it from the brand perspective?
So,
Sorry, the agency perspective, my bad, yeah.
that's it. So, I think from an example perspective, like IKEA is a very good example, to be very honest. I remember how they just created they created a space where they had the entire layout in actual measurements, and then they put a VR headset on you to experience it, right? In fact, I remember I was speaking to an interior designer, and his rage just increased when he said, I can just use metaverse and transport you to your to your shop or to your home, and this is the cost of that. So that's a very good example. Another one that I think from an agency perspective, and while Ashish was talking, one of the ideas that came to my head, see, technology is very good in terms of making you experience stuff, but how do you personalize it? Now imagine Ashish created a sample flat, and he wants you to just buy it right away. Yeah? How do we improve conversion rates? So imagine at the enter of the sample flat, if I'm able to just log in with my Instagram handle, my pictures will be picked up by an API, and all the photos, or basically the placeholders in the house, is just converted into my pictures. That sample flat now belongs to me, right? And that experience will become another level. So I think personalization using technology could be a really different angle in how, as an agency, I would like to see.
And building off what you said and going into reality, see what I did there. Basically, because you sort of are investing in all these experiential, experiences, for lack of a better word, how do you see that actually translating back into ROI? Like, if I could start with Ashish, because those are big lifetime purchases. Like when you create an experiential experience, like how do you see that sort of translating in numbers?
It's a whole new world, and I think you might be surprised that my experience tells me it is far easier, far economical to deploy innovations. I was just talking to a colleague of mine yesterday, and he had an agency come, and I was telling them that, I want to do this, can you do this for me? Which is that I want to have you check the flat, and I want to show you how the view will be once, for example, if you're on the 14th floor, and what will be the view from the 14th floor? How does it work on the 14th floor? And there will be somebody, for example, there will be Ashish who will show them the kitchen, and I will make him online make his first cup of tea in his kitchen. That will be maybe 5 years from now, 4 years from now, and add sensory to it, and the click of the gas, and the crackle of the water, and the tea being made, and the aroma, and all of that. These are economies of scale, and unfortunately Indians have an aversion to using new technology. But if you deploy the technology, as I was saying, that we sold a project at perhaps a fraction of the cost that we would have otherwise, because when we manage our books of accounts, it's very unusual. Everyone manages his books of accounts in a very unusual way. When you take a cost of sales, you perhaps will forget to add the salary part to it, you forget to add the cost of tea and coffee to it. So there are so many costs that we exclude just because we want to show ourselves those in picture, but that's not correct. If you use technology efficiently, your cost of the expenditure will dramatically come down. Having said that, if you exactly know what kind of an experience and what is the outcome and how do you want to do it, but yes, technology you also need to be wise enough to know the scalability. Don't just create a technological product that will not serve the longer purpose. I believe create templates for future. Keep building on them.
And so, and I'm going to go back into this because ROI is these metrics which we all have to, because, so you're doing something sustainable, but I think for a lot of agencies and stuff, it's a lot more immediate that you need to show it right now. So how do you sort of show the
I
ROI?
think if I enter with a proposal on this, both of them will ask me first, tell me the KPI. I'm not putting my bucks on the table if you don't give me the KPI, right? There are multiple ways of doing experiential marketing KPI. The first one is to do with PR. A lot of experiential marketing drives good PR value because you're doing it at one location. It's not scale, right? If you look at the last year, 2023, which we're about to close, PR buzz was the biggest ROI that people were driving through experiential marketing through unique billboards. Zomato has created its own brand identity along with the kind of billboards that they've done, right? We just saw the price slash billboard on Myntra, right? Or doing a lot of OTT series and Bollywood films have been using that very smartly. So one is PR chatter. Second is because you're building a community and you're getting people on a particular place, we all enjoy our social media. हम सबको डालना है आज सुबह क्या हुआ? I'm sure we'll all also put a post on LinkedIn that we were here. And we would like to talk about it, right? So the conversations that we get out of any kind of experiential marketing is the second KPI. And the third one is to do with ROAs, right? So in case the experiential marketing was about driving sales or driving leads, then you can talk about how much ROAs you'll be able to get out of that investment, depending on the kind of sales or the lower funnel that you're able to get out of it. So these are three big KPIs for experiential marketing.
And on the other side of the scale, I mean, because it's sustainable, it's something long term. So how do you sort of show that ROI is sort of something that you are going to get an ROI, even though it may not be as immediate?
Yeah, so we really don't have very immediate quantifiable matrices as what she spoke about, But our work is, probably to do with a very, very long-term kind of a change and a very fundamental, rudimentary kind of a change. So we are more at a stage where just kind of creating awareness rather than really measuring ROI and through matrices.
Okay.
And it's all about giving experiences because this is about the work that we do. It's all about creating that psychological change at an individual level and then that getting percolated down to the behavioral shift at the community level,
Okay.
So for us, it's all about making them envision what it looks like and then kind of shifting, so to say, their ways of living or for that matter, their ways of doing business as well. And that's where I believe experiential marketing, even for our products, kind of really, really works wonders. And that's a great way to communicate a lot of messages that we want to communicate.
Right.
It makes you feel good, basically, as an individual.
Absolutely.
And I mean, coming back to like now consumers are spoiled for choice, and everyone talks about the choice part, but I would like to talk about the spoiled part because now we just expect the market to evolve with whatever we need, whatever we want. So even though experiential is a new thing, like now people are like, what's the next experience? So is that something you guys are looking at, in the back rooms? Would you like to
Yes, I mean, I'm quite passionate about creating a parallel sales approach to the commodities. There are many challenges, it's easier said than done, but I think it is doable. I think I've seen that happening in the recent years. Technology, use of technology, there will be the basic barrier to that is the traditional sales mindset. I think the first transformation that has to happen is to accept that there has to be, there can be, and there will be some way or the other, a whole new way of making your hand reach out for that wallet, the sales to happen. Today, most of the sales that happens, it is still driven by the standard mindset. You need to do it in a certain way, and there will be a barrier to that. But that's not going to hold for long, because in terms of the volumes that we can sell, is far different than what you can do using traditional sales methodologies. Technology, use of technology, technological interventions, whether you call them experiential marketing or I just say that use of technology in simplifying the consumer experience, allowing the person to experience the product in a simpler, efficient, easier way than he is doing it now, and making the purchase far easier. And managing it technologically, it is easier. Once I'm engaging with a consumer on a technological platform, I can take him across the spectrum of services. I can upsell, I can cross-sell, I can take him to a payment gateway, I can take him to the loan section, I can take him anywhere I want. That's not something that, not that you can't do it, but that will be time consuming. Imagine the kind of mammoth man-hour that I'm dedicating just to do that. But technology allows me to do more in an efficient way, and the volumes will be far different. Today the kind of volumes that we are looking at, the whole consumption pattern will dramatically alter if you were to have a mindset of sales through innovations, which is not happening today. So I think the biggest barrier to that is because the decision makers today, the second line of management, the decision makers, they do not come with that demonstrated mindset.
Ashish rightly pointed out, the adoption of technology is one of the biggest barriers that we're facing, not at just an end user level, but right, at the top of the ladder as well. However, being able to communicate the benefits of it in terms of, for example, she spoke about, Facebook generating the number of leads. I believe that in terms of the data that you are able to generate today, the sheer amount of data that is available for you to take appropriate decisions, technology provides you all the relevant tools, the big data analytics that we have, for that matter, artificial intelligence also, which is becoming so simpler to use. If you are able to utilize that, you actually are able to get on to actionable insights, which can then get factored in your decision making. That is a level of awareness. However, that level of awareness is not really there today, and that's a big challenge for us. And as Ashish was rightly pointing out, the mindset, I think it all has to start from here. But I guess it's a progression, and as we see things around ourselves evolving, if you look at the history of mankind, you see that right from the industrial age, we have gone on to the information age, and then the digital age, and now we are talking about an imagination age, which is something which we had not even fathomed. So today, with this kind of an experiential marketing, you are able to give immersive experiences to your consumers, or to things which were probably just left in the realm of their imagination, and today we are transporting that into reality and making them visualize it. But that messages and that experiences, unless and until it's made familiar, it is a challenge.
From a perspective of future, I don't think a marketing head or a CMO or CEO will settle for something which is not futuristic. So an agency 4 point of view is that they're always looking forward to what's next in technology, right? From an adoption perspective, I'll tell you a small anecdote, and this just recently happened. A client was sitting with us and he was like, यार किसी गोरे को रूल्स दो ना तो वो पढ़ता है प्रॉपर्ली और फिर एक सवाल पूछेगा मुश्किल से, ठीक है? इंडियन को रूल बुक दो ना तो वो कहता है भैया आप ही बता दो ना. So we are not used to going through instructions by ourselves, right? We believe in that conversational, that experience that you bring in from another person together. So from that perspective now, I think experience is there to stay. The challenge of adoption will happen, but like we and in metros copy West, and then finally tier 2, tier 3 copies us. I think that will fall. It's just a matter of time that things will happen. Like another thing from a technology perspective, I can't imagine my mom or a person of my mom's age using Blinkit or a Zepto to order something. But this Diwali, she went to the market. As soon as she stepped into the market of Malviya Nagar, I don't know how many of you are aware about that place, it's very congested, right? She just went back in the car and came home and said कि Blinkit पे ना पत्ते भी order कर दे, सुपारी भी order कर दे, फूल भी order कर दे. So you know at technology you're available and you don't want to barter your convenience at the sake of it. And hence it will stay.
Provide like a case study where you have seen experiential, how it started, how it played out, and what learning outcomes came from it. So, Ashish, would you like to start?
It's gonna be a long story, but I think the most recent one, if I stick to that, and before that, I mean, she reminded me of my own time. I saw one day, there was this huge box that I found on my desk. My office used to be here in Nehru Place, my first office. So what the hell is this? It's a computer. अब इस पे काम होगा सर. And I remember we spent about 4 or 5 months. I used to, my boss used to be in Bombay, Mr. Imam. I sent him those notes criticizing the very use of this computer. I would, I could possibly, when I think about it, I laugh. I used to write, those innovative excuses. Sir, इससे ये problem होता है, इससे ये problem होता है, इससे ये problem होता है. It was always a problem statement for next 6 months. And to think of it, how things have eventually happened for us. The online experiential center that we created for one of our projects that people thought could not happen, and there was no site visit, nobody ever went to a site, and we were able to fill the entire project in just about, I think, 6 hours, maybe less. And people really thought that yes, from the initial thought was that people want to see what they want to purchase. And I mean, there was a process, but to cut the long story short, I think it worked. And I think that is how the future sales will happen, because eventually for certain category of products, because the product does not exist. Even if you buy a television, I think Indians consume maximum number of IT and telecom products, but we are the only consumer base that doesn't know what is happening in the technology. This also reminds me of the first experiential business that we started was way back, I think in 2002, 2003, much before the likes of Chromas and the kind of centers that you saw. We had a company, we launched a company called Upgrading Switch. So the concept was that when Indians go to buy a bread, we have 1,000 questions. We know कैसे बना के देखना चाहिए, ऐसे होना चाहिए, ये देखो, वो देखो. But and that, let's say that time the cost was 10 rupees, but then if you want to buy a mobile phone, you don't buy a mobile phone and ask questions. You go purely because somebody has purchased it, you read a review, you like the ad, and therefore but you don't know how the mobile phone works. So the whole concept was when you walk into an Upgrading Switch, you will be first profiled, and then an officer, an experienced officer will be assigned to you. He will, without the bias, tell you what kind of a phone should you buy, and eventually they leave the choice to him. So, I mean, between the two, it's 2002 and 2023 at the end of it. So I think that is how we spanned out.
I honestly don't have a story to tell, but I think from my own personal experiences, the way, as a consumer, I can tell you the way the expectations have shifted. So for example, when I was going to buy a home for myself, and I come from Mumbai and completely understand the real estate scenario in Mumbai, So, and we were wanting to buy a flat in the high rise. So one of the most important criteria was how is the view outside. And a few years back, if you needed an answer for that, the answer was that it's only in your imagination, right? But this time around, when I went for house shopping, and I could actually see a drone-based view of how the view would look like from a particular floor of your apartment. So I think, and that pretty much helped me in making the decision much quicker and faster. Of course, there were other factors of consideration as well. That's not the only point. But that's how things have shifted, and this can be extrapolated to various other aspects of life. So from my side, that's one. And then the second, which I was we were just discussing, before we came on, my 10-year-old son is out here, and he said when he heard that I'm supposed to be in Delhi, and he said that, Mama, I want to come with you. And I was a little surprised. I said, why would you want to come? It's going to be a boring, conference, and you can't come in this perspective. And so, we were just joking, Shraddha and myself, that see, this is experiential marketing, because, he's a Gen Z or whatever, I don't know what you would call when he grows up, alpha, beta, whatever, but they have already started wanting to experience what it is all about much before their time arrives, and that's how the world is going to change, and yeah, so.
And Shraddha, you have many stories, I'm sure.
I
So
have
which
so
is your
many.
favorite?
I'll tell you a couple of latest ones, okay? Have you guys heard about the Nothing University from 5 Star? So they created a Nothing University where you just go and do nothing. So you go and you go through rooms and you're sitting in a classroom and you're doing nothing. Then you go, you're sitting in an exam room and you're doing nothing. And then you go to a practical room and you're nothing. I think that's a great example of just showcasing what 5 Star values are all about, and it's a tourist destination. So it becomes a place for you to go. So I am looking forward to go and experience the Nothing University. From a campaign perspective, we did this for Nexa, where we wanted to launch Ignis. And I remember this conversation very categorically where the brand manager said, Shraddha, तुम लोग क्या करोगे यार इवेंट पे? मतलब तुम लोग 2-4 पोस्ट बना देना डिजिटल तो हो जाएगा काम. And I was like, just leave it to us, right? And what we did, Axwell was performing that time. And one single KPI given to us was drive more and more tweets and conversation. So we said, why don't we create an opportunity to generate more tweets, right? And we use technology. We put 2 large LED screens across the stage and we asked people to tweet. And every time we hit 1,000 tweets, we had streamers and confetti blasters on the stage. And through IoT, they used to blast. Right? So every 1,000 tweet, the score used to blast. So that's another way of using experiential marketing. And this is something that I want to do. I belong to a model family. I've gone to so many places, regional places, religion places, it's not even funny, right? My dadi used to take me to this place which had 108 shivlings. So you had to go and chadhao everything to shivling. And he used to think, so much milk is getting wasted every time, right? This could have been given to some poor people who are not drinking milk. So I proposed this to one Pujari ji, and I'm also speaking to another e-service puja app about this, where I'm saying, what if we create technology where you just press the button, the milk circulates itself, the process of putting it on a shivling is done, but at the same time, a new brand pack is donated to a poor guy.
That's lovely.
Right? So I think there are multiple such stories which can be used from a technology perspective to drive experience as well as, like you said, make you feel good at certain time. And that's how I think as some of them.
Lovely, great. So this was a fantastic session.
Understanding the big growth of event tech and its future course. Joining us on stage, ladies and gentlemen, I must encourage everyone to bring up a very enthusiastic chair as I welcome our panelists. Please give it up for Naveen Gupta, founder, Spalva. Let's give it up for Ankur Kalra, founder and CEO, Vipgyor Group. Let's welcome Ganesh Pandey, co-founder, Tech XP. Jahneet Kaur, senior correspondent, Exchange for Media.
Indian Saturday to us. I hope we don't bore you and we are able to provide something insightful at the end of the session. While I got this topic, I was just talking to my colleagues about it, and my first question was, as Gen Z, I can't relate event happening without technology, right? So for me, as a Gen Z, I open the Instagram and I get a sponsored ad of the Grub Fest or maybe any of the special events happening in Delhi, the Horn OK Please. I will just swipe up, go to book my show and get my ticket. That's how simple it is for me. I will also get to know how many people are interested for the event, how many people are turning up for the event. So the integration of tech for me from a consumer perspective in the Gen Z era is very, very easy. But how did it happen back then? And all I got to know was pamphlets. That's it. Pamphlets, outdoor media, offline media, word of mouth. That's all that was there. I would love to know from all three of you, since you three represent three different facets of experiential and event marketing, along with tech. To begin with Naveen, how do you think over the time event tech has really evolved for the business perspective?
So, according to me, though, the evolution it's been very, very slow. For me, who's been an event planner or a manager for the last 20 years, I think it's very negligible. We are sitting at a foundation stage where event tech has to, still start. Like for example, if you ask me what event tech is, when you talk about the tech, if there is a test called toothpaste test. If something that you can use it on a everyday basis. So in event management, technically being part of the agency also, there is nothing that we use on a daily basis. It can be a Google Drive or MS Office, but there is no platform that we use on a daily basis. See, event tech is something where, it facilitates, it provides you things so that it removes the friction, so that things are faster, you save time, and saving time is saving money, and that's how things happen. So technically, in the last 20-30 years, the evolution is very, very slow. Today, event tech, we consider event tech, putting lasers, drones, and better lights, better video. But from the day one when I started my career into events, event was bracketed into 3 parts: pre-event, event, and post-event. So far, whatever has been happening or has happened in the event bit, where the audience is there, you on site, you use a lot of technologies or platforms like Hubilo or Hopin or XYZ. But there is a bigger part like a pre-event. Pre-event is something where the planning happens, and that is where the most of the technology should be incorporated. Then there is post-event, where when you do an event, that data should come back to the pre-event, so that a person who's starting a project should use it. As we were discussing earlier also, like in a video game, you have 1 to 100 stages. When you fall from a 98 stage, you come to 97. But in events or event planning, you always start from the level 1, which should not be the case. So according to me, and there are various factors also, and we need to focus on those factors, why it is slow. Like for example, in mobile or in any other technology or any other industry, the transformation has been very, very fast. In our industry, because maybe the ecosystem is not there or we are just starting, it started developing. Like we building Spalva, which is like a marketplace for event venues, where sitting at your office or at your home, you can walk through the entire venue, take dimensions, create layouts on a press of a button. So according to me, it's just started, and still there's a lot to be done within the event technology.
I would recommend that after this you start with a round of introduction, what each one of us does, and so that everybody gets a perspective of where we are coming from.
Yeah. While you tell how tech is evolved, you can integrate. How smartly Naveen's are integrated into his response, you can integrate.
So I run a company called Vidcure, and I've been into this space since 1996. Started Vidcure in 2002. I'm also on the national body of EMA, and we formulate a lot of policies with the government in the event and the event tech space, and therefore one is interested in this space. I agree with Naveen completely that we are at a sub-zero point, and there's lots of work to be done. There are 3 basic audiences as far as an event is concerned. One is, of course, the event organizer. One is the client or the sponsor, the one who's putting the money, and the third is the consumer, the person who's experiencing it. The job of event tech is to make all 3 experiences amazing. How do we make those experiences awesome, right? So, as far as the organizer is concerned, how is it that we can heighten their experience and, like he said, not start from zero each time? How is it that we can make their experience smoother with every event? How do we make them better and better and better? How do we ensure? For the consumer, how can we make the experience immersive on all their screens, on their phone, on their tablet, on their everything has to have a similar message, and they have to go back home with the takeaway from the event. From a sponsor point of view, how do they get data? How do they maximize the footprint of that consumer? How is it that they can take the experience of those 500 people or those 1,000 people and amplify it to 50,000 people or 1 lakh people? So these are the 3 aspects that need to be thought about. Most of us, unfortunately, my byline for this session would be we use event tech for the sake of event tech, for the sake of using event tech, and that is where the disconnect happens. We don't, the client sometimes says, "Yeah, कुछ technology डाल दो," इनसे अच्छा सर VR रख लेते हैं, AI रख लेते हैं, and that is how event tech is unfortunately practiced in our business, and that is where the issue is. Event tech should not be seen for the sake of tech. It should be seen for the sake of experience. Experience of one of these 3 audiences, either the organizer or the consumer or the guy who's paying, the sponsor or the client, right? So that is where the basic disconnect is, and that is where the basic ask is. That's my point of view.
Just a brief introduction. I've been in marketing, then I still am a part of an agency who does events, and more recently for the last 4 years, I run event or experiential marketing company or experiential tech company called Tech Experience. So, like Ankur said, it's too early in the day to agree or disagree on anything. But use matter. Everybody has a slightly different take on the same thing. Firstly, what really is event tech is something that I think I just like to place on the table so that at least my comments or in fact everybody's comments are taken in perspective. Event tech, we talk about technology very specifically only for the event organizing or the event space. So, to my mind, any technology that is used to create an experience for the three stakeholders that Ankur highlighted is event tech. So, how does technology impact the organizer or the attendee, and also then the sponsor or the client. My view is that we've come a long way. We've really come a long way. So, if you really look at what used to happen 20 years back to what happened now is very different. Obviously, everything is a continuum. It's not, it's not the same for everybody at all points in time in terms of, if you look at certain pockets, there are certain clients who are doing certain kind of events, there are certain other clients who are doing very evolved things, right? So, new technologies are influencing literally all the three aspects. More so the first two, and the sponsors are the beneficiary of the hard work that the other two people are really putting in. So, if you look at buzzwords like AI and stuff, although in the real sense, the potential and the usability of such technology is very and much higher order than is required in the event space. But even having said so, there are people who are already using these things to actually chart out visuals, chart out concepts, content. So that's already happening. The adaptation or the adoption of such technologies for a wide range of people will take time. But I think we've started right, and one thing that I endorse as far as both my co-panelists are is that they're at ground zero. There's a lot more to be done. But I think we've certainly moved up, and we moved up at a reasonable pace. We could obviously do more.
Naveen, I would like to know from you, you said that the growth has been very slow in the space. Why do you think so? What are the challenges that the industry still faces in the event tech space that we have not been able to reach there?
It's more about the adoption also, and it's more about the ecosystem also. So for, why we go to Silicon Valley to start up? Because the environment is there, system is there. Here, technically talking about India, I have not seen people, like for example, government is doing so much for the startup. We as event managers or planners or experiential industry, are we doing anything? Have I invested whatever money I'm earning, have I invested in a tech startup or an event tech startup? So that ecosystem is completely not there within the system. We still think that, the end goal is the objective. That's not the objective. Like for example, food tech, we are still eating the food, right? But how Zomato has aggravated the entire experience, that friction which used to be there from one restaurant to the person who's eating food has been reduced, right? So the restaurant can focus on creating a very tasty or delicious food, and the person who's eating can focus on what he wants to eat. So the options are there, the varieties are there, it's on a click of a button, but still I'm eating the same food. So the absorption of the content or the event, I'm saying this will always remain. Human emotions and experience and networking, everything will remain. But the process to make it more efficient, more friction-free has to be there, and the mindset has to be developed. That mindset is not developed. Like for example, if I say the focus on the stalwarts from the industry or the people who have started or people in between is very minimal. I don't know how many of you know, event planner's job is the 6th most stressful job in the world. It's a 4th study. And if you see the top 5 are pilot, firefighter, neurosurgeon, soldier and a doctor. So is our job so stressful? I remember 2019 I was executing an event for YouTube. It was called YouTube Brandcast, where the CEO was there in Bombay, Suzanne Wozniak, and she was there, and it was like a 1500 event for brands and the agencies. And I was so stressed, I didn't go into the event. I just went to Haji Ali and had that famous ice cream or custard. I stayed there for 4 hours. I called the team after that, is it over? Then I went inside. Today it's a format, I might be running the biggest of the events in the country. I have no patience or I have no courage to be in the part of the event which is happening. So I'm saying, how are we reducing this stress, like for example, today in the world, the first function or the foremost important thing is the mental well-being. If a person in an industry is not well mentally, then how are you putting it up? So I think so event tech has to play that role where, mental well-being, sustainability, efficiency comes later. All those technologies like AI, AR, XR, and all those technologies will work. You can create a mixer banao, present karo client ko, but the basics needs to be satisfied. That is what the role of the event tech should be.
Investing in, I believe that where there is demand, supply will happen. I don't agree with this fact that we first have to invest and that is when technology will come. Where there is a demand of technology, investments will come in, and we've seen that across sectors. Is the demand of technology in the experiential and events sector that much that it should attract big investments? That is the question to ask. It is not about our people investing. If there is an opportunity, if there is a demand, investments will happen. People who don't make those investments will lose out. And that is, you look at Book My Show, look at how they have revolutionized the entire ticket booking system, right?
Yeah. And so I'm saying, for example, there are two ways of doing it. Either we wait for the opportunity or we create the opportunity, right? Like for example, people waited for COVID to come to invest in Ubilo. Why does it have to happen? Ubilo was performing for last 5 years. No one looked into it.
Because COVID was a big catalyst. All of us were not able to get out for the event tech business. I think COVID was the biggest blessing. I'm sorry to say that. It is an unfortunate truth that event tech has reached, if the scale is 0 to 100 and we were at 1, it reached 12 or 15 because of COVID. There were so many technologies. All of us started doing meetings on Zoom. Events started happening digitally. The entire event tech adoption really went up maybe 20-fold or something because of COVID. The point is that yes, there have to be early adopters. There have to be people who are pioneers in technology, like you've done Spalva, and you should pay me for the endorsement. But what percentage of our business, really speaking, if the pie is 100 rupees, how much billing today is towards event tech? Let's talk about if the total event management pie in India is 100 rupees. What, according to you, is the size of the event tech part? Out of that 100, so answer this question.
It's considerably low, but what we're trying to do is, say for example, you would have seen Tag Labs and Boat created the first AI-generated advertisement for the ICC World Cup. That's part of the event, that's part of the content, but he's using technology. So what I'm saying is, let's not say that it is 10% or 20% or 30%. Tomorrow, like for example, for Tag Labs, it was like 100% of billing, which they did it through AI-generated images. And that is how technology should be incorporated. So as event planners and as event managers and as brand custodians, we should involve what is required. That's what the objective should be.
We follow the money. Wherever the demand is there, billing is there, we follow that. That's the unfortunate reality of your business and my business.
That's a lot of back and forth happening. I would like to know from you, Ganesh, what is according to you the challenges that the event tech space faces?
There are two types of challenges, right? One is the environmental challenge. We had a good example of what the environmental challenge is. Basically, all of us, and it's not limited to India already, it's basically all of us are, human beings, social animals, so we crave social interactions and in-person interactions, at least a certain generation. So when the generation changes, that challenge to some extent will be addressed. We just talked about COVID, event tech, or it was not really event tech, it was just basically a platform that happened. And then people are very, very happily going back to physical events or in-person events, which are probably 30-40 times more expensive. So obviously, it's not about normal or rational. It's all about, what is the need. So the environmental challenge is that. The other challenge also is the fact that it is not evolved, is the challenge why it's not evolved. So there are enough players, there is the technology that is available, or the technologies that are available are not at par, which will force, or which will sort of force open the doors to utilization. So if the products and if the utility out there is not good enough, it's not going to be utilized on a large scale. It will take time. Yeah, the drift is there, but to answer your question very simply, that the lot more needs to be done in Vintech for it to be actually used more extensively and be a larger part in the overall event space.
Exactly what I was coming to. If I see from the viewer perspective, I don't know why, which we were also discussing back there, that the evolved state of a large event like IFA or Filmfare has not been that great in India. As much as I see Met Gala can going out and about with halogens and AI and drone shows and this and that, in India we still haven't reached there, even though these are marquee events been running since ages. I know World Cup is one of those which has evolved a lot over the time, but what do you think is the reason why we are not skyrocketing there? What is the ceiling there? What is the issue?
To the contrary, again, I think a little more optimistic about what's really happening around. I think we've really moved up in terms of where the events are. Obviously, the evolved markets have much different technologies that they use, but even to deliver what we're delivering now in terms of events, I think there's a lot of tech that goes in the back end. And there are two things: one is what you see in front and what you see at the back end. So there's a lot of tech that's happening at the back end that is being used.
So you think like India is at par with the Western development of tech in event space?
No, I wouldn't say that we're out there yet. I think Ankur is better placed to answer that question because he's doing a lot of events.
He's active.
But I think we're not that far behind. I don't think the disparity is as much as it used to be. And when it comes to tech, let me be very categorical and say that the cost that we pay for the tech versus the delivery that it does is better. The ratio or the payoff is far better than anywhere in the world, and I can say that because again in the pandemic or even after that, there are projects that Indian companies are doing. Probably speaking from self-experience, we're doing beating bids from companies from across the world. So it's not about the technology is not there. Maybe we're not using it, and the overall experience, and there are a lot of other things that go into it. It's not just the technology part of it.
Yeah. Before Ankur adds to it and Naveen add to it, the latest example that I can think of is the Las Vegas fair that we have. The kind of event that happens inside that whole fair, and the kind of advertising and branding that it allows in the outdoor as well. I mean, I don't know if India is even closer to that anyhow, but I would love to know from both of you, what do you think?
So there are two things. One is capability and the second is intent to spend. In capability, we are at par or more. We are able to execute those kind of experiences. We are able to create those technologies, like Ganesh said, at a fraction of the cost. So there is no problem in capability. It is about the intent to spend. Who would spend that kind of money? How many people in India would spend the kind of money that is spent on the sphere? Maybe one or two, maybe Mr. Ambani or Mr. Adani, but that's it, right?
Yeah.
What is so the point is the intent to spend for that kind of technology. I don't think capability is an issue. I don't think any kind of there is any challenge. If somebody has the intent to spend, we can deliver far more bang for the buck. In the cost that the sphere was made, we'll be able to make 4 spheres, right? Yes, Naveen.
So I've got a very different perspective to this. So see, the comparison is completely wrong because US is US, India is India. We are still, as you might have heard, that Shakti went from India to everywhere and is coming back to India. So we're just starting there. So if you compare, there is no comparison. US is where the innovation happened, where everything happens, For for an artist to create a 1 billion economy like a Taylor Swift, not possible in India.
Yeah.
But there are so many things that we are doing good, we've just started. Our look or perspective is completely different. The way we wake up to the way we go to sleep is completely different than US. Like for example, if you look at G20, the way technology was adopted, the way the events would happen, the entire economy came up. Different kind of event for the same segment, government. In US, you will not do it. G20 happens in US, very dry, drab kind of stuff. India, it was very good. You take into consideration the drones. I think so the best of the performance of the drones is in India. You see it in every function. You go to US, you will not find that. So India is a different market where money plays a bigger role. That stratosphere of the globe that has been created, it would have taken billions of dollars. In India, you invest less, you look at a better output and a much, much better output. So that's how, because it's a different world, different economy, different per capita income. So I say comparison is little wrong, but we are on a lot of terms, we are much, much ahead. I've recently started a Singapore office. Conceptually, we are 20 times with them. I was asked to set up the company over there, because they wanted a boutique event agency, and we said we will come and help you. And the way we are functioning, we are delivering, they are all. So there are few things which are good with us, there are few things which are good with them. So we have to live in our environment, and that is where we are. And trust me, 10 years down the line, or these 10 years, coming 10 years, 15 years will change the complete perspective. So you'll see the Shakti coming back to us.
I would like to focus on the positives of the industry, the top 3 trends that you've noticed in the event tech space.
Generative AI and ChatGPT, they are the 2 things that at least I know a fair few event agencies use to generate some content, generate some visuals. That will only go out. In fact, just let me tell you something very interesting. We were just talking to somebody in the investor community, and apart from the other success factors, do you know what they said? One of the key success factors to get a good investment is how you integrating AI into your operations. So, the trend is not what I am saying, it's what the investor community is saying. So that's one. AR, VR, I think more so AR in the next 5 years, and VR a little later is going to become a very, very key product, a key element in the communication and experience mix. Because one is that the device for AR is going to be much cheaper than what it is for VR. And there are already companies, international giants and Indian companies already working on products that will be in the affordable range. So that's the other thing, is going to be really helping in the deliver great events. And the last thing, probably I'd like to put it on data science. I think we talked about the pre-event, and post-event. A lot of the brands and therefore the agencies are already working on models that sort of the larger agencies and the larger players who do legacy events year on year. I mean, I know for sure that what I'm talking now, others already done that 10 years back, right? So it's not that people haven't done it. Maybe a lot more people will do it now. And data science, like we were talking, it's going to be data in and insights out. So the data analysis capabilities will be one of the cutting edge advantages that a lot of the progressive event companies are going to use as time goes.
Uncle?
So I am not a person who is better qualified than Ganesh to speak on this, and I completely agree with all the points that he said. There are 2 keywords. One is immersive. So whatever makes an immersive experience is going to be the future. So whether that is through a device or through Google Glasses or through sitting in front of a curved screen, whatever. So the whole thing is about being immersive. A person should not have to go to an event to get an immersive experience. How can he or she get a completely immersive, as close to reality as possible? Now, you can call it by several names, and every day the terminologies change, and Gen Z and Gen Z1 and Gen Z2 come and call it differently, but it's all about creating immersive experiences. It's all about creating data which helps the other 2 communities, whether it's the organizers or it's the clients. So these are the 2 things, a combination of these 2 things is what the future is, and this is what we need to work towards.
So talking about the positives from this industry, I'll take a little bird's eye view, and there are 3 things which are which I feel is very positive. Camaraderie is very, very good. I remember the time during COVID where IMA, So Samit sir and Ankur, they had initiated this thing which was like the oxygen cylinders were very, very less. So we were the first ones to create that WhatsApp group and go to people were asking for them and we were giving the entire intelligence in Delhi and NCR. So that's something which I have not seen in any of the industries. Everyone was on Google Meet and Zoom and XYZ thinking about their business. We didn't have the business, but we were focused on people management. So that's the first positive about the industry. So as people, we are very good. Someone's pain is our pain as well. So that's one. The second part is that experiential marketing within the entire marketing gamut has gained a considerable amount of. So people do not believe in ads as much as they believe in a live event. They would like to do networking event, launches. So physical connect is becoming very, very important, and hence the kind of budgets that people used to set 10 years back, it's increasing every day. And the third and the most important part is right now the growth that the country is seeing, brands like Apple is starting up their manufacturing unit, Tesla is still working on it. So there are a lot of brands which are coming into the country. You see all the luxuries brand, Dior or someone did a fashion show. I would have never imagined Gigi Hadid coming to India, and doing a fashion show. It was never on the radar. So you see the kind of people, Kara came and everyone came, So it was like amazing when we used to see something on Instagram, and today those are happening here. So I'm saying in terms of economy, so these are the three positives which will take the entire industry forward. And I'm saying 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, it's not going to be 10x, it's going to be 100x. The industry is going to grow so fast.
One meme dialogue, movie reference, movie title, song title that you would like to say for the future of event tech space.
Picture to abhi baki hai.
That's what I want.
I do the most predictable one, but I go first, so I get the benefit.
मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को दूर उड़ाता चला.
I'm a big Amitabh Bachchan fan, but the dialogue is from Shashi Kapoor, so मेरे पास माँ है. So the future is with us, and we'll progress and we'll propel further. Yeah.
It's more of that. Script, of course, the basic is ready, but I try and look at the under bit of it, like intonations का हमारा होगा, pauses का हमारा होगा, सवाल का डालूंगा, etc. And of course, by this time that the briefing is done, I've spoken to the client and met my audience, सब कुछ हो चुका है. This is me, of course, the clothes are ready, and I stay near the stage. 2 घंटे पहले एकदम शांत. I don't talk to anybody. I just listen to songs. That's it. And then we go up.
Basically, you're the topper kid who kind of behaves like मैं तो कुछ पढ़ के नहीं आया, and then later kind of shines on the paper, right?
I got the mindset of complete co-creation. For the longest time, I used to think, I'm one of those who will go and present for a brand. But I think after doing it for a couple of years, you kind of figure that you are the brand for that particular day, or for those many hours, or for those many minutes. So my endeavor, before I begin the show, to right at the end of the show, is to co-create that show with every single person involved, be it the client, be it the agency, most importantly, my audiences. And I think the second thing that I am still a learner of and seeker of is to be completely, fully, 100% present for those many minutes or hours. I think for an artist and Siddharth, that's the hardest thing to do, right? To forget about what just happened a couple of minutes ago, because we all have a life, let's face it. But to be fully present is, I think, when you completely enjoy yourself doing that particular show. So that is how I mentally prepare myself. And then Batra songs are always there to help.
I have such high regard for each one of them. Can we make it louder, especially the gentleman on the last row who's messaging his neighbor's wife right now? Hello, sir. All right, I really enjoy myself before an event. I'm very loud. In fact, I do all the things that I enjoy. But you know what happens is, I get my alter ego out. What is the alter ego? A person who's very fearless. Because what happens is, you get a lot of brief from the clients, which is great. You get an approach, which is great. But what is the game-changing aspect is that when you do your own value adds. So I start thinking about what are the elements that I am going to bring to the table, where the client himself or herself watches and says, wow, where that trump card in my pocket. I don't even tell the client that this is going to happen because somewhere I believe it's going to work. So I'm thinking about all these things because I've got the brief, but I'm thinking when I take this brief to the next level, and that's where I keep telling myself, like a boxer tells himself, I've got nothing to lose. Because remember one thing, a client gives you a brief, you understand the brand, which is fabulous. But if you stick to the exact brief, you're replaceable. Because anyone can come and start doing the same thing, the faces change. So I think about those elements which will take my brand equity and the brand's equity, which is one and the same, to another level. So that's what I do. अंदर के fearless इंसान को मैं जगाता हूँ. I talk to myself, I party with myself, and think about those elements.
Well, makes sense. Pretty nice, well put. Rahul, please.
So, I was supposed to, the gentleman to my right has seen much more radio than I have, but I joined radio way back in 2007, and that's when my journey started. And later on, I started hosting events, and there's this one time I was hosting a New Year bash. Now, as we all know, New Year bash is probably one of the most difficult events ever, because the people are drunk, they have bottles in their hand. If somebody gets irate, there's one bottle flying, there are 1,000 bottles flying towards you. And we've seen adequate number of those incidents happening. But the CEO of the organization asked me, how much of it is going to be planned and how much of it is going to be spontaneous. I couldn't have been thinking of anything better. I said, sir, 100% planned and 100% spontaneous. Because life doesn't prepare you for those speed breakers, those hiccups that come in. There are times when the lights go off in the middle of the event. There are times when you have a complete blackout. That happened at the 31st event. And when you come back, and that's what I did. I said, wait a second, that was to grab your attention. We did that on purpose. And now if you want us to play the music, you want to shout out loud. So that's how you come out of this situation. There are downers that are going to come your way. But how you rise up, spring back in action, in spite of life knocking you 1,000 times down, it's how you rise back with the mic.
In fact, I want to add to this, okay? I love these elements that happen. So, I remember, these stairs that lead to the stage, right? So I remember telling the agency that, listen, you're tootne wala. And that time, when you're on stage, you get very possessed. So I walked and I suddenly fell down, and then I fell down, and then I just said, I have a very laid-back approach to life. And would you believe that was the moment which really lifted the audience? So somewhere, I kind of enjoy all these goof-ups that happen technically and all that, because that's what gives you the moment, the MC the moment to rise and shine, right? Sometimes you will say, sorry yaar, 20 minutes karna padega because there's a flaw which is happening backstage. In my head I'm saying, I love it. Play 30 minutes more, because that's the time you use that, and then the agency comes and says, yaar, tumhe bacha liya yaar. In your head, I was waiting for this. You can't tell them directly. But those moments are the one which actually makes an MC what it is. Those flaws, those goof-ups, and how you maneuver it.
I'll just give you a personal process that really goes behind the curtains. So, T-minus whatever show that's going to happen, the last 24 hours to 5 minutes, whatever time is on your hands, depending on how prepared the show is, or kitne time pehle aapke account mein wo Gandhi ji aaye hain. All of those things into consideration. What happens is you mentally prepare yourself with getting all the information that you can consume. Now, be it the brand that you're representing, be it the show that you are going to host, or anything else that's going down, right? You're a spokesperson, you need to reflect the brand through the face value and the words that you're projecting on the dais. They're paying you for it, right? It's a very professional outcome that everybody is expecting out of you. So, the preparation happens to that time. The moment you're about to get on the stage is where the magic happens. As Sid was pointing out, you go all out crazy. You try, and I personally go with a couple of deep breaths. That really helps me center, as Bhavna was pointing out, that you need to kind of switch it on, and that's what really happens. So consciously you were prepped, now you want to get into your subconscious so that you can actually be organic. Because if I'm talking to you and I'm reading a page, it has completely different dynamics of the energy interaction that's happening from the stage to the other side of it all. So at the end, it's human to human connect, as we all have been saying. You need to understand where you need it, how much you need it, and if God forbids and God willing,
something goes wrong, that's where you get an opportunity to improvise as well. That's the most organic part. That's where the humor comes out. That's where you feel connected to the person on the stage, the brand, and the whole event itself. So it's a process of your conscious, subconscious coming together, and then it's a craft of refining that process with experiences of falling down and getting back up every single time. That's how I would like to put it.
Pretty much nice. I loved everybody's response. I think
Are you actually going to tell us you didn't like anyone's response? You always immediately guess, so this is a very easy response.
so you would have known me by now. I will. I genuinely will.
She does that?
I
Okay.
can be that.
I like you already.
Okay, perfect. So coming further to all six of you, the last time I was moderating a panel, I remember there was this real-time audience engagement. You know what question I'm coming to now. At times they ask questions and they kind of start explaining so much that it turns out a 15-minute question altogether. So last time while I was moderating a panel, no offense to anybody, I now know that that man's father was struggling with something and his mom's mother was also struggling with something. And there was a long story behind it, which I now know the background history of his family, which is nice. I could have known that some other day as well. But how do you handle that? The crisis management, the real-time audience engagement and the unpredictable engagement that comes along with it. How do you manage that? Bhavna, I'd like to start with you.
So, I mean, what is audience engagement, if I may ask, right? We're trying to get to know one another better. Looking at the theme of the event, alright, I personally feel that not everywhere a Bollywood dialogue will work. Not everywhere will a quiz work, right? We don't need to have a set of, since for me it's been like 14 years of hosting, it can't be a set of, hey, I need to do tongue twisters, I need to do this, I need to do that. It cannot be a rule book which comes across. What I feel is, it's about the person who is sitting there, on my left. It's about the lady who is sitting on my right. Am I able to connect with her? Is she hearing me or is she listening to me? Am I able to create an energy difference in the crowd? Because as a communicator, what is it that I am able to do better than maybe Lalit sitting out there, right? What is it that I can do better than any of you? I need to understand that first, and I personally feel that crisis management, in my head there is no crisis, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm getting that opportunity to connect with all the wonderful people. So I get that excitement that, hey, I have been blessed with that opportunity. I am the one in the spotlight with, whoever's with me in that moment, and I'm getting a chance to interact. So it could be even a hook step, or it could be a very basic question, hey, how are you doing? And if I get that smile, I'm the happiest person. So for me, honestly, it's all in the head. Is simply put, if I may say that.
I have a question again in return to this. I'll be very honest, we have a timer going on. We need to keep the show running well on time. It is good to be empathetic.
We got the hate. We understood. We will get out of the minutes.
Yeah, so exactly my point. So at that moment I know you can be empathetic because of course inside you always want to connect with the audience and listen to them. But what do you do about the event management guy showing you the ticking clock at the back of the stage?
So I think it's just about being empathetic to everyone. Okay, understanding that the event planners have a timer, we all have a timer, but also understanding that the audience needs something more, right? But time, I personally feel, is very important, right? So for me, it's just about striking that balance. That if the event manager looks at me and says this, it's my cue to ensure that everything is shutting on the stage.
Right.
So I personally feel the event manager has employed me in this opportunity and I need to get the work done.
Right.
So I take it personally there. Yeah.
Perfect. Aditya, what do you think?
I think Paul said in the youngest earlier. There's another plug-in now. But I'm taking it from where he left that going by the Bible of MC, जो आपको brief में to follow that, of course we all know that. We know how to speak clean English and correct Hindi and all that, सब कुछ है. When you come in times of crisis and if you can handle that, probably some of us can, some of us can't. वो कभी बहुत कहते हैं अच्छा MC नहीं है, and of course we even take it more further away from where we were in crisis. Is what really makes an MC or breaks your day. I personally feel that. क्योंकि सबका मालूम बेसिस सबके सेम है, आपको जाके बोल नहीं है. In that crisis, what really makes or breaks you. Second, I think if you ask how do you tackle that, let's say if I am on the stage, I'm more like I'm announcing and I'm talking to an audience. In terms of crisis, I make it not me, I make it we. I start involving them also. अच्छा आपका बेटा मेरे पापा ऐसे ये करते थे, मेरे पापा ने सर एकदम आपकी तरह लगते हैं, मुझे आप बताइए, अब तो मैंने ये पत्ता अपने ऊपर से हटा के थोड़ा देख लो, not she's challenged to take it forward from there. Of course, I'm the Sutradhara of that crisis. I think that we certain was really good well for me. Second, I think language change is not always the best way. It's a bit of English when you've done all those footsteps ये सब कर चुके हैं, and we're coming off in that circuit, but I really feel do whatever you want, eventually आप करोगे वो जो आज सालों से चलता आ रहा है. You just add like addy element to it. Language change is worked really well for me. Let's say the entire show is in English, and we can take it in Hindi and just try and handle the crisis there, because people will only agree with what the language is thinking, I personally feel. और जिस पे वो सोचते हैं ना, if you come down to talking in that, then the crisis is like, it's in your hand. I personally feel that. That works for me.
Makes sense. Zenia?
Okay, so I really feel that events are just a reflection of life. और life में कोई चीज हमेशा थोड़ी ना सही होती है. So I'm always mentally prepared. I mean, yeah, sounds very philosophical, but I'm always mentally prepared. And having done a lot of EFM events, I'm even more mentally prepared for any kind of events.
What does that mean?
What do you mean by this?
We really don't know what that means.
We can extend the
Mr.
time.
Batra,
However, coming back to the point, yeah, like I said, it's a reflection of life, and I think I kind of want to take from what he said, which is that it's very important as an artist to know that we are no different from the person sitting in front of us. Let's not underestimate an audience for a second and say कि यार क्या करोगे साथ, समझ में आएगा या नहीं, will they talk to me or not, are they going to sing, are they going to dance? Of course they're going to dance, we're all human beings, and given a chance we all want to have fun, we all want to talk. It's surprising how many of the audience members are better speakers than us. And जब एक बार माइक मिल जाता है तो छोड़ते नहीं हैं. So there's really no dearth of conversation, there is no dearth of enjoyment. But I do want to say from the perspective of an artist, one of the easiest ways to engage an audience if you have those 20 minutes or 30 minutes is to be constantly listening throughout the show. Because if we are Sutradharas, then the show is a story. And it is very, very crucial according to me, especially with formats of shows that I host, that I need to make those 20 or 30 minutes a part of the story. At no point in time should it appear like, oh, what's happening? Why is this happening? Ye kahan se aa gaya? This doesn't make sense, this doesn't fit in. It has to absolutely fit in, and I think that also comes with doing it more. That's about it. So that's really my take on managing 20 unavoidable minutes of interaction.
Okay. So that's I would like to change the question at your end now. You host a lot of different kind of formats of shows, from live events to interviews to pre-recorded shows and everything. We know that it's not easy to host a corporate event and an entertainment fun show, right? What kind of change in tonality, voice modulation, what kind of art is required there according to you?
okay, first I want to answer your first question.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Which is नहीं बहुत अच्छा लगा तो बहुत बार I mean all of them spoke about crisis management, which is fabulous. I think you were talking about especially this point कि कोई आदमी बोल रहा है, महिला बोल रही है, बोलते जा रही है. Hey Siddharth, what's up man? How are you? Good to see you. So बोलते जा रही है, panelists बोलते जा रही है, and you don't know what's going on because they're talking about their wife, their sasuji, their traumas in life, which is great, pet dog, everything. But you want to get back to the mudda, right? So whether it's a panel discussion, whether I do podcasts, right? Now, for example, 2 days back I was at the start doing podcast, and I wanted to get him to that point where I don't want to get my title and thumbnail. And then suddenly he went here, there, moved around, and I said, Buddha, I can't do that. But I'm very, very attentive. So the moment I realize they're deviating, I give them a few seconds, take it to deviate. But I'm sure you come back when they don't do that, when that pause happens. Like for example, it's like, मेरी mother-in-law जो है, and you want to talk to him about how much money he has in the bank balance, and he talks about his mother-in-law, and he does, and then back I move it. I'm moving in that pause and take it off. So which means I'm on my toes, I know every movement that's happening. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the audience, my ears are listening to Zenia and all of them. I know exactly what that person on the extreme left hand side was doing when he's opening the entire itinerary on the extreme left. I know that Siddhartha is doing this, and I'm also hearing Bhavna. And I do this simultaneously because I've made myself like that. So it's that pause when you intervene, move in, and get it back to the Mudda. Now talking about how you mold yourself, whether it's a corporate event, or a wedding event, or a concert. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll tell you one small thing. Digital and events are now merging together, alright? And it's becoming very, very strong. Sometimes I get a very solid premium price because a perception is of me. I'm being very honest and very, very raw and candid. I get a brand who says, I'll hire you for this. I need your energy in this. I want you to go all out and make sure these guys have such a good time. So I understand they're paying a premium for me. So at that time, I'm doing exactly what I am known for. And I bring that to the table. Now what is a corporate tone? I think lines have got blurred. Today, people like it to be very real. For example, years back, I used to stand on top of chairs and do stuff. Thankfully, a lot of people are doing it now, but it's okay. But I'm coming back to the main point. At that time, people say, corporates do it, kindly. But for me, the mission was to change the game and say, corporates will also do those things with you if you allow them to do it. And when I did that, I changed the game at that point of time. And I realized people are calling me more and more for that. Alright? So, tonalities, etc. depend on what the situation is. For example, I did an interview with Narendra Modi, alright? And it was on digital. So someone came and told me, you're talking to Modi son, alright? Kya tune rakhenge? And I just did how I talked to my best friend. And he opened up like mad, right? It's very important to understand what you feel. So today if I talk to Mr. Bachchan, and I say, Bachchan sahab, kaise hain? Theek hai, you're doing well. And he says, and suddenly he's like, tum kaise ho? And I'm going to stick to the tonality. I'm going to change myself at the minute and become like a 20-year-old Bachchan sahab because he's becoming like that. So you have to observe what is happening at that minute. Alright? For example, there is a person who's finished talking about life, a spiritual guru. Maybe 15 minutes back, I've been this crazy man energy guy. But if I see God or Baldas coming and talking about something very emotional, I change my tone. So there's nothing known as a set tone in this era. It's all about being real. There's nothing like that anymore. You see actors, right? How actors have evolved. They can do anything and everything. There's no formula. So if someone comes and says, this is a corporate tone, this is a wedding tone, no. I did a voiceover for IFA for Lifetime Achievement. In those days we used to do 20 साल से इन्होंने काम किया है. Ladies and gentlemen, on stage, Subhash Ghai Saab. And I remember it was voiceover. And Ghai Saab called me in the night. Why my God, मेरा life तो काबा तोड़ा है तूने मेरे ऐसे बना दिया जिसमें टपकने वाला हूँ. Then Saraf calls me and says, Ghai Saab wants more energy. And I said, your guy told me to do a soft Lifetime Achievement Award. But Ghai Saab wanted it really powerful. I reworked on it. So it's the lines. It's what you feel at the moment. And remember one thing, what's going to change your game is what you bring to the table. Trust me on that.
There is no code formula, no cheat code as well. But what I'd like to stress on is that, a lot of people say, jab stage pe jata hai, you have to like really shout it out, hey guys, how are you doing? It really depends on what mood the audience is in. If the audience is hungry, suppose they've not had lunch, and if you go with that tone, it's going to misfire completely. Plus, even if you look at singers, the evolution of singers, so there is an Arjit which is a very soft mellow tone. There's a Jasleen that comes in who's softer than an Arjit. A different industry altogether, but still works. And there's obviously a Kishore song which is all-time favorite, the fun energy. So we all do different energies depending on the time of the day, depending on the nature of the event. And I've always believed that you need to surprise the audience. If 10 people are dressed in white, be the black person, okay? And you have to really stand out in voice, in presentation, and even in the tone of voice.
May I have one line if I may? Can I? Alright. I love what he said, if people are dressed in black, be the guy in white. But can I tell you one thing? No, it's not about a funeral. I'm just trying to tell, यही होता है. सब लोग एक formula को देखते हैं and they feel it works. So they feel कि यार ये सब black पहने तो मुझे white पहना. That means you're trying too hard. When you try too hard to be different, you are going to fail. Just because he's one maroon and I find 20 people wearing maroon, should I wear white? No. हमेशा याद रखना, just because you deliberately want to stand out, you try to stand out, you will be really out. You understand? It's a human psychology. So don't try to be outside of the box when you don't need to be out of the box. Sometimes, like Bhavna says, it's okay to be simple. It's okay to be straightforward. That's what I like about senior Bhavnas. All of them, sometimes their simplicity is their beauty. Sometimes you don't need to be told. Sometimes you can just be basic. And that's like Mr. Anurag Batra. He's so basic that he does not mix vodka with water. He only has vodka.
You need to be a very good listener to understand what the question was. That's where you want to start. No, I'm kidding. I'm a man in practice now, so I've been listening a lot of things. Sir, couple of things that I can talk about.
Batra, we don't want to know everyone's honeymoons right now. Please, I know the weather is cold and you want to hear all that. We'll give you warmth in a different way.
Batra Saab wants to live vicariously through our lives, trying to be young again. So, well done. Of course, I've been recently married and Batra Saab probably was married a while ago, just like a couple of months ago.
But you will still see Batra Saab's face on Tinder, still there.
Sir, I'm not doing any comment on this, please don't. I'm not in this.
Don't worry about increment मिलेगा. Don't worry.
Rakesh, how would you like? Moving on, guys. Moving
Yes, no, for sure. See, this is exactly what it is. It is about reading the room, right? No matter what event you're doing, I was never doing weddings for the 12 years of my event hosting career, right? I've done television, I've done voiceovers, I've done a bit of radio, I've done a bit of this, I've done a bit of that, but never touched wedding for 12 years. Then pandemic happened and I was ready to pivot. The first thing that happened was a lot of digital came into being, so a lot of virtual events are happening. I'm doing a team building session sitting at my home with 70 countries accessing the session that we are hosting right here. And that too was happening on just say a Zoom open, nothing else, right? There's no technology involved, there's no additional cost involved, nobody is supposed to travel from those 70 countries and get a hotel accommodation. All of that was not happening. So there was a pivot in the industry, right? And we wanted to ride that wave. So virtual happened. Then I thought, okay, why not go and explore the other territories that I was not open to earlier, and ended up doing a lot of weddings. So alter ego comes into play. When you get on the stage, you are a different person, as we mentioned earlier, right? Somebody said that you get your charm on. You need to do that for a corporate client in the most corporate-ish manner. There are certain do's and don'ts. Try and be in that window, but also make sure that at the end, the person sitting on that side is a human being and they want to be entertained. So you entertain them in whatever capacity you can. And my crutch in life and on stage is always humor. If you go out with a joke, out of 10, if you make 7 work, the punchline lands, they laugh with you, they'll forgive you for the 3 that didn't work out. Dr. Batra is a testament to that fact. You do not speak, शादी में होता है ऐसा रिश्ता है जिसमें एक इंसान हमेशा सही होता है, दूसरा हमेशा पति होता है. Always be that guy, listen, shut up and you're happy.
Okay, you've talked a lot about on-stage appearances and on-stage performance. I want to focus more on the backstage performance. A lot of times, like Siddharth, we were discussing backstage. A lot of times it happens that your interpersonal relation with the interviewee is not that great. You might not have hit it off behind the camera.
She asked me, and I said you can push me as much as you want, so I like it, shoot it.
No, that's not what I meant, but okay.
You can push it with me, I like it.
My whole point is that we tend to not have a great off-record relationship with somebody behind the camera. What do you do to not get that chemistry on camera? What do you do? On stage or on camera for both? Bhavna, I think Siddharth and Bhavna, both you can start.
You go for it, please.
So I got an opportunity. I was just telling all of them that I got an
opportunity to interview Miranda and Sudha Murthy. Of course, such luminaries, honestly, we don't get a chance to pre-sit, I would say, and pre-talk. Like, there's nothing like backstage, maybe yes, there's a big hello, or you do end up in having a coffee with them, but there are other talks which are happening, right? What I have understood is that it is about the key to a great interview is just listening. Of course, you get to contribute, you get to put in your bits as well, but in the interview, the other person is your spotlight. You're trying to understand what he or she is doing in their life that could possibly inspire you. So personally, I love interviews wherein I get a chance to know the person better. I feel that since we never get a chance for, let's say, even if I don't like somebody, let's say, if I'm not personally inspired, alright, but they have done something to be where they are. So personally, I do not like to judge before I head on to interviewing anyone. I leave my personal biases aside because there I am a person who's given a chance to get to know the other party better. And for me, as a role, as an interviewer, it is to know much better about the individual and be their personal stories, about their future, because I feel any talk, you need to know what's up happening next because that's what inspires you. So my personal bias goes away and that's how I approach an interview. And I know Siddhartha maybe spoke about, he recited something that it's been a spiritual journey, right, when you interview someone and somewhere
I think... the rickshaw, I'll tell you what.
You know, Batra sir reminds me of this college senior who's perpetually ragging all the juniors. I feel I'm back to class 11th. But I like it. You find a lot of naughty people like you in the audience as well. And you can't be shaken and stirred.
I wanted to moderate this session and I could have, but I didn't because I wanted. But I did want to be with all of you. With some of you I spent much more time.
So would you like to put a chair right now?
But I am put it up Karla.
Yes, sir. Alright.
Sid, would you like to contribute to that question?
So what do you want to ask me now? Key.
About the off-camera relation and how do you kind of maintain that chemistry? If it's not going very well, what do you do?
So I love at this point, maybe I would have to share this years back, but I'll share it now. So I'll talk about failures.
Please.
Yeah, So I started as a radio host when I was 14. Obviously, life lessons were not too much, alright? Not too much. So I'm going to tell you candid stuff. So not too many life lessons, but yes, I was this fearless young boy doing radio, nothing to lose. All I wanted to do was be seen with these stars, become popular on radio, and hopefully the girls would ask me, say, hey, I heard you, so let's have coffee and all that stuff. That was the agenda. But now, over a period of time, because obviously I've interviewed a lot of people on my YouTube, on events, alright? What happened was, I'll tell you names. So, the first time Akshay Kumar came to me for a radio interview. Alright, now a lot of people told me that, listen, you know what, Akshay loves to be the center of attention. So you've got to give him lines, he holds the line, and he'll model a line back, and he likes it, which is how it is, right? And I said, no, it can't be possible, so I want to match him eye to eye. And then he would come to me on the radio interview when I was 16 years old, so he threw a line at me, and I threw a line back at him. He threw a line at me, threw a line back at him. And then suddenly I saw him becoming yes, no, yes, no. And that's when I realized the idea was for me to make sure I get a lot of stuff for him. And here, it became a combat going on, right? He would run a Punjabi line, I would run one back. And in that combat, within 6 minutes, it became a yes, no. But I'm so glad it happened to me at the age of 6, right? I stopped the interview, and I also shut it off because I didn't know what to do at that point of time. Then suddenly, someone gave me his number, and I messaged him in the night and saying, you know what, I'm sorry if you got offended, but I'm starting off now, and just treat it like how you started off and you didn't know what to do. Right? You would have gone out to the sets, you did something, blah, blah, blah. So, but please understand the way you like to experiment in your role, I also want to be experimental with my growth. So I was not following a formula, but in my next interview, I'll ask you straight up questions. But I think with this, I've got the fear of not experimenting. Within 2 minutes, he said, someone from my office is going to call you, come to my home next day. I reached his house, and what was an interview, and he sat with me. And we just had a 45-minute conversation. And he told me a lot of things. He said, I would have loved it if you did this banter with me and threw lines at me if I had known you. I didn't know you, so I thought you were trying to be too over smart with me, and that's why I zipped up. He said, now I've spoken to you for 45 minutes. I'd go all out with me, and I did that. So what happens is, before an interview, I end up liking the whole process of chatting with people. Now obviously they know me, so I have that comfort zone, but I started doing that. I would have actors coming to me, I would spend 15 minutes with them, chatting with them, blah, blah, blah. I would start decoding them in my head, and then I would use that approach. So that was my failure, which means I need to understand that person before throwing questions. So that was a failure that taught me a lot.
Great. Aditya, what would you have to share?
Yeah, I think very quickly, just to add on 3 more minutes left. I'll give an example and I'll put this forward. I was hosting, so my first show ever was with Bill Gates. Lucky enough I got this, and I think to try and build your relation with them, with your interviewing, just 20 seconds आपके पास, like I think I just told him so that I'm just a young kid of the block. All that I know about you is that you're the world's richest man. Nothing else. I didn't know. I think if I just told him so, I just been the richest man, but I know nothing else from my apart from that. But Wikipedia, which I wanted to bring out, can we talk about personal life? Like my father told me to ask this. Like I asked him, sir, do you still write off toiletries from the hotel? I asked him. He said, yes, I do, but only from the premium ones. So I think much of that video, like my mom said this, and I just read this, and I thought so. Or coming from a youngster. Then even अगर आप किसी को नहीं भी जानते हैं, if someone doesn't like you, vice versa, you start to then come on common ground. So that's what when you
Perfect. Yeah, makes sense.
A few days back, and he was the only person in my 29-30-year-old career that I had an interview. And I was told 5 times, देखो विदु sir है ना उनका fuse off हो जाता है तो वो उठ के चले जाएंगे. And they told me these 3 questions, don't ask. And this happened 3 weeks back. And I said, if I don't ask these 3 questions, my viewer is going to say this was a PR interview. So he's got paid, he's calm, like the Akshay Kumar interview which happened with someone else. So I was like, I can't make it look like a PR interview. Right? So I said, what am I going to do? But I have to ask him these 3 questions. So what I did was I studied him so much, that he started talking to me, and suddenly I told this anecdote that, sir, when you did Parinda, this happened, right? And he was like, huh? This happened. And he said, how did you know? And the story is, he said, how do you know? And he started doing it. And by the 28th minute, I had another 7 minutes left. I brought those 3 questions, and he went boom, 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 and he answered. And then when he was about to leave, he said, you know what? I'm glad you asked me these 3 questions, but the only reason I replied is because you took so much interest in my life. Spontaneous in your interviews. But can I tell you very honestly, there's a method to my madness. I make it look very spontaneous, but I work my heart out
I'm sure.
before every interview.
Right.
Every event, sometimes I come for an event in Batra, some we do banter. But I know beforehand that I've done so much research that I can get away out of that. So nothing replaces hard work, but the trick is to let the audience believe that he's just walking in and he's doing it and he's leaving.
I'll have to change that chemistry before I go on stage if I get an opportunity. But I'm a realist, so I'm going to tell everyone very frankly, Siddharth has the feasibility to have these conversations off camera, but when you're on stage, there are no retakes, right? Also, most often you're in the middle of the show where the guest is on standby behind and is joining you on stage in just a couple of seconds. So you've literally never met this person before. I'd like to take a cue from what Bhavna said, and I use that moment on stage to know that person better. So that is one. Having said that, if I I don't have a great relationship with that person for whatever reasons, the past of course, which has never really happened to me, but I think if I'd be in that situation ever, then I'd like to change that chemistry before we get on stage. Because when you're on stage, you just can't lie. You just cannot lie. It's worse than being in front of a camera. I think you can cheat a camera, but you can't cheat a human being who's sitting there and watching you. So it's very important that you change that chemistry. It's an opportunity, again, like she already said.
And while you're answering that, you look at the question. Yes.
That's why I'm saying we have to wrap it up in the best way possible. Please do it.
Well, you got to be honest. Be whoever is, sharing the stage with you or the podium or the conversation. You need to be open. You need to give them the hope that you are being as honest as you can be to the board, so that they can also open up and be as honest. And you need to be respectful. Honestly, any conversation, those are the basic. If you've grown around, say, army background, you'll understand what discipline is. When you're talking to somebody, if you're respectful, everybody on this planet will give you their time. So approach with respect, with honesty, and I think everything else is it just falls into place.
You know, we spoke about celebrities. I'm going to go to very IC workers. Getting a CEO who was hosting Batra International Oscars 3 years ago, the MD turned out to be somebody I really have deep admiration for. And getting a CEO to dance on stage. अब शादी में जाते हैं, शादियों में everybody is ready, they're in a fun mood. But a CEO has a whole lot of people watching, he's got his entire team watching. On a gala night, on an awards night, when you are out there international, you are ready to have, it goes into the after party. But the finale moment is where you have the leadership team on stage. Getting a CEO or an MD to dance on stage is probably the most difficult task because the entire team is watching. It can probably fall or it can really create a moment for the next 3 years to happen. And the gentleman there, so you need to do your research. That's what we're often talking about. Your prep needs to be 100%. You need to be, aware of what has happened in the previous years, some moments, some touch points. You need to travel in the team, and you need to know each and every point. It's always a whole lot of hard work, but it should seem effortless on stage. Do all the hard work, but make people smile on stage.
जो होगा देखा जाएगा.
Yes, but exactly, right reference. Go ahead. Yeah. Zelia?
I think when the client comes to me backstage, which is mostly the client. Mostly client comes with changes, agencies fight it off. And I can't think of a dialogue or a movie film, but I can think of the first line of this very popular song, which is completely out of context here, but I'll probably look at the client and be like,
Oh, you sing as well.
and then the client will come from my cue card.
Now you've revealed that you sing.
And then I'll say, just give me a little bit.
यहाँ पे MC के अलावा she's available for singing shows. Please everything.
Finally got out of the bathroom. Carry on.
अच्छा, तो last minute changes किए, right? ये है कि confidence देने के लिए उनको भी पता लगना चाहिए कि आप उठा सकते हो. हम जहाँ खड़े थे लाइन वहीं से शुरू हो गया है. वो हम जो करते हैं वहीं से सब शुरू होगा. Which means you have to give confidence to the client saying, boss, हमने है तो सब ठीक है.
So elegant, so beautiful, just looking like wow.
अक्षय कुमार, right? अरे चेंज देगा क्या? कितने चेंजेस चाहिए भाई?
This was the most appropriate one, I think.
Like I want to give an example. I have seen all of you. Siddharth hosted some of our biggest impact person of the year. This year, Rahul, you did. Ravin, Ankit has done some 10 events in the last 10, 15 days in Delhi for us.
आदित्य सर कोई बात नहीं सर, ठीक है. We are going to sir, yes sir.
Ravin and Aditya Mesko stayed. I want to ask.
Sir, you don't be a host now, please. ऐसे ना बोलोगे CEO का उल्टा पुल्टा तो कहीं ना हो जाएगा sir.
Siddharth, like I remember Kubra said she used to host our events. And she has become an actress, right? Now you were a radio jockey, you become an anchor, then you're doing a show. What is the aspiration of each one of you beyond hosting events? That's what I want to know.
The field, so I was based in Google. I always wanted to make communication women-based, very intellectual, very refined. I want to add more content creation, but in a different perspective. Like if I am talking about sustainability, I take that as a
aspiration is that whoever hears me next, I'm adding value to them, and I have 3 core topics. One is politics, one is sustainability, and one is real life stories. So I have it pictured it all out, I have it drafted, and that is what I'm going to be delivering next.
Storytelling, right?
Yes.
Malik?
So from where I come from, Pune, my parents still, if they ask them कि आपका बेटा क्या करता है, कहते नौटंकी करता है. Like this my father says now, he says मैं तो अच्छे shows करता हूँ, मैं ही नौटंकी करता है. This is my father tells everybody. And personally, if you ask me where I want to land up or aspirational wise, अभी मेरे क्या सपने हैं? It is to make people feel, I believe कि MC is just not कि अरे अच्छा ये तो कर रहे हो जॉब क्या करते हो. It is to let people believe कि हाँ भाई this is also something like a regular job, and then try and train people first of course with your voice. Second is also personality, because at least मैं उसी का था. My body was really shaped me. So I want to inculcate that in people. Of course, not in our school, but that is what my aspiration is to. Is to deliver and impart as much as I can from what I experience and then express in others or with others.
So beyond the stage, I aspire to make movies. I've already had the privilege of producing 2 amazing short films that have won global awards. Because just like Batra, I'm too a storyteller. I just can't be on camera, so I prefer being off it and write, direct, and produce. The second is I'm working on a business idea. I want to own a business that sells a tangible product, Batraji. So that is the next thing I'm working on. And I think the third one is aspiration is to reach that day when I'm absolutely fearless on stage.
So, you know, whenever I used to host, so what's the thing, you're hosting, but acting in America. And I remember, you know, when these Bollywood directors, Imtiaz Ali, everyone used to come, and I saw people in those days saying, Puchna, acting ke Puchna. And I never wanted to be an actor because I truly believed I wanted to be a specialist in what I do. And believe you me, hosting is a specialization. You master it, you don't even do anything right, left. But hosting is truly specialization. However, saying that, it leads to a lot of things, keeping your core in mind. Like I the other day, with due respect to someone is a host, but also runs a chicken, wrap shop as well. You know, so I never wanted to do that. I wanted to stick to my core. But in my head, I never wanted to be dependent on anyone. I wanted to be an individual entity where I not only take checks, but give checks to people.
I'll give you my account number.
And it's not, but when you bounce checks, they say, up to the police and then I worked towards becoming a platform by myself. So I started my YouTube channel, which started doing very well. Now we have a sales team, we have a marketing team, we've got writers, we've got coordinators for guests, and it's run like how a TV channel runs. So it's got lots of brands coming in, we shoot very well. So that led to being a media platform by myself. So I used to see, you know, corporate people, politicians, actors going to media platforms. And I wanted to be this individual where people come to him for interviews before media platforms. And I think I've achieved that in the last 2 to 3 years, where they come to an individual to give interviews before a media platform. That led to, obviously, becoming a media platform, which moves into a couple of months, in less than 2 to 3 months, with great funding that's come in. I'm going to start my own EdTech platform. I have a word called Angar, which I use in my podcast a lot. So my Angar merchandise is coming out tremendously. Besides that, I'm angel investing in quite a few firms as well. So thankfully, when I step out now, when I do events,
industry levels, and I used to actually call these agencies survey guy. Okay, so these are top 10 advertising agencies. And little did I know, a good 10 years, 12 years down the line, I get to be on stage at an E4M platform with the best of the best in the industry to my right and left, with Dr. Batra sitting there. I never imagined it. So ladies and gentlemen, I think life gives you fun surprises. just like an MC on stage, there's something that comes your way. I will always look forward to being associated with Exchange for Media and one way or another, probably working with you in the team, sir. Probably that's one thing on my bucket list. But maybe not, just going to acting or something. But there's something that I like to be associated with people, and that's what I look forward to. And a big thank you for organizing all of us together.
I aspire to have my marketing as good as my man right here, booking 10 shows in a single answer, right? Fantastic. No, seriously, you aspire for financial freedom firstly. Once you have that, then it's more about giving back value. There is something spiritual there. If you help people evolve with your craft, be it entertaining them in whatever capacity you can. And once you have a hang of a community around you, that's where you try and, probably live your life to the fullest and try and give people opportunities, just like Sidbhai said. 5 people who started working with me on the team, one is right over there. This man has been capturing me for a few years now. So he makes me look good, puts my content out, gets me more work, and at the end he also is getting financially, the freedom that we all aspire to. So I think that's the goal at the end, कि घर बनाए तो डॉक्टर बत्रा की कोठी के साथ में बनाए.
Lot of anchors, because they're great in what they do. It's a brilliant question that Anurag asked. You gotta let money work for you, right? You have to. Sometimes I've heard that like I've heard a few anchors, very unfortunately, have really, been unwell mentally and physically because of the work that happens. And then I was talking to one of the boys a couple of weeks back, and he was like, 3 mahina mein kaam nahi karo, kya ho raha hai, shows ka. And I remember this conversation used to happen with me years back. Like for example, I'm talking to you right now, right? I'm so loud. When I'm talking to them, I don't have my phone around. I'm just focusing on the conversation. Because right now, while I'm doing this fun fair, talking to you guys, someone from my team is doing an interview with a Bollywood actor right now. And they are working for me, making money for themselves and making it for me as well. So it's like the Shah Rukh Khan model, right? A guy who's a phenomenal actor opened up so many branches which is related to himself. But he's got the force working for the brand Shah Rukh Khan, which MCs have to do. When the going's great, you've got to think of avenues. I'm not saying become a chef, that also you can be. But start parallel things which relate to what you stand for.
For all of us, I think some combined, going forward, looking at how the creators are working with digital age, all of us will start building our own communities जहाँ पे merchandise बेच सकते हैं, वो रविंद्र भी कुछ कर सकता है. I think that is what we all aspire in one sense. I think building our personal communities.
Great. Any other? We can take I think one question.
Because times of our screen अभी blank हो चुका है. They've given up.
एक paradigm shift आ रहा है जो मैं आप सबको बताना चाह रहा हूँ, especially in the corporate and wedding world. All right. Like today, and I'm telling this to all our friends on stage. Like sometimes I'm actually called. Where the brand says you host, but can you put up a reel for me? And today, my team and I genuinely charge for those reels that go up for a brand which I'm hosting for. So your digital and live has to work. I put up a reel sometimes. If I care for someone, I do it FOC. But would you believe 99% of my reels on Instagram when I'm putting for an event is paid for the brand. Today, even brides and bridegrooms actually tell the agency saying, can Siddharth put it on the digital space? And I actually charge the agency to put that real content up. So you gotta use your digital and your hosting skills and amplify it. Of course, there's relationships also, so friends say, chalo kardo, you do it. But that's how you can monetize yourself even better.
The audience has seen our faces for too long now, we should not bother more than that.